Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Mario Cartaya. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, Journey Back into the Vault, In Search of My Faded Cuban Childhood Footprints. Now, people, it's available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. Pretty much any online book reseller. But listen, if you want to gather everything that Mario has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site. And that's mariocartaya.com. There, you'll find more information on him, more information on this fantastic book, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. So one more time, that's mariocartaya.com. And before we go any further, I do want to take this opportunity and point out that he was brought to our network, People of Distinction, by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And of course, I'm talking about Quipper Prints. Now listen to me. If you're a writer out there, you have a book that you've created, although you find yourself at a crossroads because, well, you need help moving it. Well, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact Quipper Prints. They're one of the best in the business to do it. And people, this is what they specialize in, okay? Head on over to quipperprints.com today and gather all of the ways that they're going to help maximize your creative endeavors. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Mario here on the line. Now, people, the moment you start to do research on his book, Journey Back into the Vault, well, you're going to have an idea of the conversation that we're going to have. You're going to have an idea of the narrative that you're going to read once you purchase copies of his book. But listen, I want to stress that you're only going to have an idea because this book is layered. This book is much more than meets the eye. And, you know, it's categorized as a motivational self-help narrative, and that it is. When I was talking to Mario on the pre-screening call, and we were really getting down to the heart of it, his book, amongst so many other things, really captures his journey back to a time that was forgotten. As a reader, you're going to follow his journey as he unlocks memories that were lost. And as you're embarking upon this journey with him, I want you to reflect on your own journey and reflect on maybe some memories that are vague to you or memories that may have been completely lost and how to reactivate them. Because I'm telling you, when you read between the lines, this book has so much to offer its readers. It's not just an education on his journey. There's a reason why it's categorized as that motivational narrative. Because in his own words, this book is going to help its readers find inner peace. And there's something about when you finally remember something, or, you know, the puzzles in your mind start to piece together of something that you lost maybe years ago, and the satisfaction and the solace that brings is something to be admired, right? It's something wonderful. And this is a true treat, okay, for everyone that's involved, myself included. And please rest assured, we're only going to capture a very basic understanding of the book today. And by the time we've concluded, you're going to run to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, mariocartaya.com and purchase your copies because you're going to understand how valuable of a resource this book truly is. And at the end of the day, don't take my word for it. Take Mario's. It's his life. He's lived it. It's his book. He's written it. He's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. Mario, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest with us today. How are you?
Benji, I'm doing great, and thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, Mario, I think what you've embarked upon here is special. I think there is a reason why it has received so much admiration. because what you've done is profound. And I have to thank you for writing the book, because we wouldn't have been able to invite you unless you laid the foundation. So thank you very much for that. We're looking forward to this discussion, man. And before we go into the book, I do think it's important to learn a little bit more about yourself. So let's start there. Mario, tell us a little bit more about your background.
Well, I was born in 1951 in Havana, Cuba. My father was an accountant. Life was comfortable until the Cuban Revolution occurs in 1959. And with that came an effort from the revolution to try to nationalize all American properties on the island. My father, the accountant, whose clients were all Americans, company like Frigidaire and Sylvania and Emerson and GE, was caught in the crossroads of the revolution when some militia people marched into his office demanding his books with all the properties of his American clients. My dad refused, and that led to an interrogation with the known revolutionary Che Guevara, who then told him that his life would be in danger if he were not to hand over those ledgers. Yeah. My dad did, to which point Che Guevara then advised him to leave the country as soon as he could, that his future safety was not guaranteed. And so I ended up here with my parents in 1960. 56 years later, I realized that even though I was receiving more honors than I should receive in my life from my career as an architect, I couldn't figure out how I got from there to here. And watching Obama speak from the Cuban Great Theater to both the Cuban and the American people, I was inspired to go back in 2016 and try to recover those memories. The book tells the story of what happened.
You know, Mario, as I hear you speak, the phrase that continues to ring in my mind, the old adage of you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, right? Unless you know where you come from. And I think that is so important and really is a great message and a connection to your narrative. And we'll dive further down that rabbit hole. But to get a little philosophical here, my next question, Mario, what would you say is the essence of your book?
Benji, the essence of my story is an existential and sensitive tale of reclaiming a youth forgotten for far too long, facing your own life, achieving closures denied, remembering, recovering, reclaiming the love of a family lost and gained, recovering the father-son's bonds I once had with my own dad, and achieving a purity of heart necessary to discover the true meaning and essence of your life. And along the way, realizing that I had recovered much more than that. I have recovered an inner peace absent for so long that I never knew I needed.
You know, Mario, let's cover inspiration here next, because I'm loving what you're saying. And I don't want to assume my answer to this next question because, well, you know what happens when you assume, right? So I'm not going to do that to you. You've embarked upon this journey. And of course, what a wonderful gift that you've received going through that process. You showcased this book and published it for the public. What inspired you to do that?
I traveled to Cuba just trying to remember my own life. But along the way, unbelievable things happened. The places that I went to gave me a stimulus that triggered that subconscious vault that we all create to protect us from the painful moments the angst created during our lives. In my case, it was going through my metamorphosis as an American when I was just 9 years old in 1960. And my subconscious deciding that the best way for me to assimilate would be to erase the trauma of leaving my country, of leaving my whole family behind that I would never see again. They would all die and I would never see them again. But having to then redo who you are, having to then redo your destiny, having to then redo your language and your customs. It was a complete transformation. And my subconscious decided that it was best done if I could concentrate on my future and not dwell on my past. Psychologists will tell you that every time that you remember anything, you're really remembering the last time you remembered it. What happened to me is that after 56 years of not remembering anything about the first 8 years of my life in Cuba, when I go back, the stimulus then excites the subconscious to then release those memories, which not having been corrupted over constant remembering over the years, release these memories as pristine as if they had just happened yesterday. So imagine that you can not just remember something that happened 56 years before, but you remember as if you were that 7-year-old boy.
Yeah.
The feelings of wanting to impress your teacher, of wanting to please your family, those feelings of a child, of being accepted. All that beauty returned to me during that time. It was a beautiful and cleansing experience that changed my appreciation of myself. It fixed the tattered tapestry of my life that for too long had a big chunk of it missing.
Mm-hmm.
And in one glorious moment, I was able to bond with my young self and become one again, looking in a mirror at the child that was those missing 8 years and the man that had returned, and yet seeing only one reflection, ours. My Cuban and American life forever bonded for the first time in 56 years. It was that beautiful, Benji. It was that beautiful.
I said it at the beginning. This is a resource you're going to want to add to your shelf. Listen, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, MarioCartaya.com. You got to head on over there. You got to pick up your books, because this is something that if you're not convinced already, we have a few more minutes here. Give it some time, because this is something you know is going to help in so many ways. And Mario, my next question here is really a curiosity for myself, but as I hear you talking about these memories and how vivid they were when they came back, it makes me think of my own experience. And my listening audience knows this. Listen, for the past almost 2 decades now, I've lived in Southern California. This is where I call home. And I'm an East Coast boy, born and raised, though, right? From New England. Love it there. And every time I go home, even though that I've been here in Southern California for almost 2 decades, there's certain things that the moment I experience it, it takes me back. It's nostalgic to no end. So my question here for you, Mario, as you talk about certain memories that were so vivid that came rushing back to you, were there certain things, maybe a smell, a sight, a taste, that brought some of those memories back for you?
Everything brought memories back. I'll tell you just one of the many impossible things that became real in the Strip, right? But when I was a kid, you were talking about grassland, and it brought this memory that I'm going to share with you, Benji. When I was a kid, we had family that lived in a town just outside of Havana called Hershey's. That's where the American magnate Milton Hershey used to grow the sugar. for his famous chocolates in Pennsylvania. And I had family that lived there. It's a big sugar plantation. And every Sunday, my parents would go there so that we could see our great-grandparents or great-aunts that lived there. And I went back. Looking for a photograph to take of the home where my mother grew up, to bring back to her in the States. She was now wheelchair-bound and not doing well with her health, and I wanted to give her one great last happy moment.
Yeah.
I get to Hershey's, and there's nobody around. There's no sugar anymore. There's no sugar workers. There's nobody walking in the streets. And I'm looking for an address that I can't find because there are no street signs at all. My buddies that were with me are saying, okay, Mario, let's leave. And I said, no. I didn't come here to give up that easy. And I asked my driver to drive very slow to see if I could find anyone that perhaps would be old enough to remember a family that lived there 75 years ago. Everybody laughed in the car, but as we're driving, I noticed this very old lady, and she was hunched over in her wheelchair, and I told the driver to stop. Got out of the car, I approached her, and she goes, "Good afternoon, son." Now I know that she's blind. Son. So I said, "I wonder if you can help me." And this lady goes, "Absolutely. What can I do for you?" And I told them, "I'm looking for the home where the Mateos, that is my family's, my mother's family's name, used to live." And her answer is, "Now, why would anybody want to know where the Mateos used to live?" And I said, "Because I am Marcos Mateo's grandson." To which this woman in her late 90s perks up, and she goes, "My God, could you possibly be Mayito?" Which is little Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "Don't you remember me?" And of course, she was a great aunt that I didn't even know was alive.
Wow.
That led to a family reunion of a family I never knew existed that was still living in the town of Hershey. And if that's not enough, on the way out, I'm remembering how I used to run through the fields and chase the people that would take in their sugar carts, the sugar stalk, to their refineries. And I would yell with the other friends that I had in that township for them to throw a sugar cane down, and then my grandfather would peel it for me, and I would eat it in the shade of my great aunt's home. And as I'm leaving, I look over my shoulder, and there's this old man sitting on what used to be a sugar cart. And I asked him, "Where did you get this cart?" And then he responded, "I used to be a sugar driver back in the 50s. And I responded, "Did you ever chase those, did the kids ever chase you, begging you for sugar stock?" To which he began laughing, and he goes, "Don't tell me you were one of those kids. They were so annoying." And that led to a big hug. This man was one of those cart drivers who would then throw us the sugar canes, and then a tear came to his eye. And he said, "Son, I miss those sugar days."
Yeah.
So yes, the smell, the country, the people, the family, the love, it's all one, isn't it?
That is incredible. Oh my goodness, what an amazing and beautiful, heartfelt story. You know, as we close out here, Mario, switching gears slightly, from your perspective, how do you handle the vulnerability that comes with sharing your work with the world, especially when it touches upon something that is so personal and so emotional with your experiences?
Benji, I am an architect, and I am a well-known architect. All of the designs that I've done have a reason for them to be the way that they are. Mm-hmm. I used to tell people when I had an architectural practice for 43 years. 43 years. And in that time, I've been able to win different awards, including towards the end of my career, having my history as an architect read in the House of Representatives of the United States.
Wow.
And then later, upon my retirement in 2022, have a flag flown in my honor on top of the U.S. Capitol. I opened myself a long time ago to my design and my expressions as an architect because it is my career as a person to offer love, to open myself to what the truth is. When I designed any building, I would always ask the building, what do you want to be? Whether it was an airport, and they wanted to be an expression of the excitement of travel, whether it was a city hall. And the buildings told me that they wanted to represent democracy. Or whether it was a courthouse, which I've done several of, and we want to allow justice to occur. And we want to also protect the victims from any more indignation inside the courtroom. Whatever that building wanted to be, I chose to give it to them. This book, I did not go to Cuba to write this book. I decided to write this book when I come back, and I begin thinking about everything that happened to me and how it changed me and how it took me from my own pain, angst, fears of returning to the same land that forced my family out so many years ago, and then discovering that the demons of the past were gone. That person who went, that person who came from Cuba, has always been a part of me. And so I've already dealt with those issues and moved past it. All I did was go recover all of the memories to prove to me that I deserve that peace and made me whole one more time.
Well, there you have it.
I'm a more fortunate man for going inside my own vault and rediscovering the essence of my life. And that's where I get my sensitivity from. I know myself.
Yeah.
I seek the truth with everything I design or everything that I write.
Mario, thank you so much for sharing. This is a fantastic narrative. My next question is, because I know about your background, I know about this wonderful book. Please tell me there's another one on the horizon. What's upcoming for you?
I am now working on a second book. And the second book then takes off where the first book doesn't. First book is about going back and recovering those missing 8 years of my life. The second book says how that child that arrived here just after he turned 9 goes on to become a well-known architect whose history gets read into the U.S. House of Representatives and a flag flown over the Capitol in his honor. And one more thing that just happened last week, I got notification from the American Museum on the Cuban diaspora that they're going to have an exhibition on my designs.
Wow.
Tremendous honor.
Absolutely.
Right? That's a tremendous honor. I am writing that second book that chronicles how that 9-year-old boy, I had just turned 9. I turned 9 in September. I was here in November, the beginning of November. So 6 weeks after turning 9, I was here. And how did that child, especially in 1960, with all the turmoil of the 60s, you know, the war in Vietnam, the civil rights struggles, president killed, the Bay of Pigs, Cuban Missile Crisis, you know, all these things, right, that occurs. A civil rights leader being murdered, you know, the president's brother being murdered.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very tumultuous period. How does a 9-year-old boy navigate through all that and still reach the kind of success that I did. And the book is going to be a beautiful book meant to inspire everyone that even though there could be storms in this country, there's still a way that you can find your own way. You know, you don't follow anyone's path. You make your own. Right? I say in the book, when the storms approach, I just reset my sails. Mm-hmm. And that's what we all do. We have to reset our sails. Right now, I have a working title for the book. It may not be the final title, but right now, for my own inspiration, I call it Surfing the Storms, which is the true story of how this 8-year-old or now a 9-year-old child makes his own path in order to be as successful as I've become.
People, I'm at the edge of my seat here. I'm hanging on to every single word that he is saying. And, you know, part of me wants to keep going. I have so many other questions. I could sit here and I could talk to him for hours. You all know where you have to go because you understand how valuable this is. I'm going to say it for you one last time. The title of the book is called Journey Back into the Vault, In Search of My Faded Cuban Childhood Footprints by Mario Cartaya. Mario, this has been a true pleasure. Man, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
It is my honor and indeed a privilege to have met you, Benji, and to have been a guest on your show. Thank you for all the wonderful things that you said about me and the book that I've written. I really, truly appreciate it.